Hello everyone and welcome back to our first video of two looking at the cities of Sigmar. So yesterday I did a quick questionnaire video to find out how you guys would like to see this done, and well, the vast majority of you voted for option 2, which is for me to go through all the units and then go through all the abilities and basically talk about them in my usual style of video. I wasn't sure if people wanted to see that because we do have, I think it's 68 units to talk about, so that's gonna be a bit of a thing. But yeah, we should probably get into it without further ado. So what you can see in blue here are the leaders. I kind of split up the entire warband into the sub-factions, so we have humans, we have dwarfs, we have the high elves, we have the wood elves, and we have the dark elves. Basically, that's how we split up here. Let's get started with the humans then. You'll notice that I haven't separated new units from old ones, basically because the vast majority of units I knew. There's a ton of new models, and therefore, well, there's gonna be some old ones in there, but we're just going to skip over them mostly or talk about them quickly. So, first off, we've got the Battle Mage, 175 points, movement 4, toughness 3, 22 wounds. Generally, all the humans in this warband have 4-inch movement, as you can see. So that's something they keep very consistent. Toughness 3 is as you'd expect for a mage, and 22 wounds is kind of normal for a leader. Nothing out of the box there. He obviously has the range 7 mage attack with 2 attack, strength 3 at 3/6 damage. So you do know that I don't love that ranged magic attack. However, we're going to talk later on about the abilities of the mage and so on. And I can tell you now that there's only 3 mages in this warband. However, there's a lot of abilities that rely on the mage keyword, so you'll have to choose one of them probably if you want access to a couple of abilities there. Anyways, that's your battle mage. Then we've got the Free Guild General. He's 180 points, also movement 4, toughness 4, somewhat tougher, no surprise there, 22 wounds. A range of 1, 4 attack, strength 4, 2/4 damage. So a very average damage profile, but not a bad one at 5.4 damage on average. Quite expensive for 180 points, but I think he's probably fine. Then we have the Sharpshooter with Grenade. That's the Outrider leader, so that's why he has 10 movement. He costs 245 points, which is a lot of points. Toughness 3, 30 wounds, so relatively survivable, although not amazing because of the toughness 3, but he is shooting cav, so he's not meant to be super survivable. Range of 9, which is nice. 2 attacks, strength 6, 2/5 damage. So with the strength 6, he's gonna be good against any opponents, no matter how tough they are. That's the one good thing about him. 3.7 damage is not a ton though, especially if you cost 245 points. So I don't know if you'll ever use this guy. Possibly if you want to do a very fast cav based list, you might want to bring him. He's not horrible, I think. There's a couple of the cities that support ranged guys as well, so maybe you could use him there. Then we've got the Preceptor. He's the leader option for your Demigryph Knights. He costs 250 points, which is obviously quite expensive. Movement 8, toughness 5, so a lot tougher, and 32 wounds. It's gonna take a long while to take him down. He has a range of 1, 4 attack, strength 4, 2/4 damage, so the same damage, for example, the Free Guild General has at 5.4. Honestly, for a cavalry guy, that is a good amount of damage output. Generally, I feel like cavalry struggles from having lower damage. At least this guy has decent damage output, so if you want a fast moving leader who can dish out some damage and also survive for a while, I think this guy is possibly your best choice. Then we've got the Prophet. He's the leader of the Flagellants. 130 points. I think that's what's interesting about him. He's very, very cheap. Movement 4, toughness 3, 20 wounds. And then a range of 1, 4 attacks, strength 3, and 2, 4 damage. That is honestly a pretty good profile. Deals 4.1 damage on average for a 130 point model. So keep in mind that Cities of Sigmar, it has a lot of options now. I think if you want to go for a Horde style build, which is definitely very possible and probably very competitive as well, then leaders like the Prophet are gonna be nice, because 20 wounds, he's still quite survivable even though he's only toughness 3, and that's a ton of attacks, so I think he could still be a very worthwhile leader to pick. Then we've got, I'm sorry for the yawning, guys. I know you hate it. Someone left an actual hate comment about my yawning and said I was a fuckface and everything. Sorry to you, mate. Yeah, I can't help it. I feel it might be because of the headphones or whatever. Still. Then we have the guild champion. He's the Greatsword leader. We did have him pre-patch basically, so he was there in the White Dwarf. 175 points, so just like the Battle Mage, 5 points cheaper than the Free Guild General. Movement 4, toughness 4, 20 wounds. So you can see, compared to the Free Guild General, only 2 wounds left, less. And then we have a range of 1, 4 attack, strength 4, 2, 4 damage. So he's essentially the exact same as your Free Guild General. The General gets 1 extra keyword. He basically has the charge ability that normally cavalry has, which I don't know how great it is. I think you could say you don't need that and drop 5 points. However, 5 points is not that much, so it's gonna depend if you have 5 points left or not at the end of your list building, basically which one of these you take, if you want to take either. Then we've got the Free Guild Sergeant. He's very similar to the Prophet, also 130 points. Movement 4, toughness 3, 20 wounds, which is the same. He only has 3 attacks though, and strength 4, so instead of the 4 attack, strength 3. That's the difference between those two. In the end, more attacks is mostly better, so he comes out at 4 points of damage on average instead of 4.1. So yeah, just generally, I would say the Prophet is probably slightly better, especially if you keep in mind that against toughness 5, the higher strength on the Free Guild Sergeant won't benefit him at all, and instead you'd benefit even more from that more attacks, so the Prophet would be even better then. Then we've got the 2 Marksmen, one of them with repeater gun, one with long rifle. The repeater gun costs 145 points, which is pretty cheap for a leader. I think that's nice. We need cheap ranged models. Games Workshop tends to price his ranged models very high, which is, in my opinion, a big issue. He's movement 4, toughness 3, 20 wounds, so that's all standard for your leader. 12-inch range, 3 attacks, strength 4, 1, 3 damage for 2.5 damage on average. That is not too bad for a ranged tuner, to be honest, especially for one that only costs 145 points. So I think you could totally bring him. Then we've got the Marksman with long rifle, costs 200 points, so very expensive. Movement 4, toughness 3, 20 wounds, same as always. Range of 21 attack, strength 4 for 410 damage. It's one of those models. We have a couple of those in Warcry. They have very high potential. They bait you with that 10 on the crit, but in reality you only have two dice per activation, so you're gonna shoot twice, because with 20-inch range you don't really have to move, so you can shoot twice, and then on those 2 dice you kind of need to roll a 10, otherwise he's gonna be a bit wasted. Like with someone else I recently talked about, you should shoot at strength 3 toughness 3 chaff with this guy, because then at least on a 3+ you're gonna deal 4 damage, with 2 shots you're most likely to actually kill that. So that's my advice for that guy, but I really like the repeater gun person a lot better. Then we've got the guard with short sword and shield. Let's talk about the spear and the halberd as well. These 3 were already in the game when the White Dwarf launched. So the sword and shield costs 80 points, the halberd 75, and the spear 65. All of them have movement 4, as do all humans. Toughness 3, though the shield guy has toughness 4, of course, makes sense. And all of them have 10 wounds, which is actually pretty good for chaff models. The sword has a range of 1, 3 attacks, strength 3, 1, 3 damage. Comes out at 2 damage there. And then we have the spear and the halberd. The only difference between the two is that the halberd has higher strength, so both have a range of 2, 3 attacks, 1, 4 damage, and the spear is 3 strength and the halberd is 4 strength. So that will yield a bit higher results there basically with the halberd, but he costs 10 points more. I don't know if that's worth it. I think I'd probably go with the spear for most of the time, and I don't think the sword and shield is worth it that much either, so probably stick with the spear, because 15 points is a lot of points to save there, and that's going to allow you to bring more models. Then we've got the Flagellant. He also comes in at 65 points, also a new model. Toughness, movement 4, toughness 3, 10 wounds, as we would expect. A range of 1, 4 attacks, strength 3, 1, 3 damage, so he's the highest damage output in the bunch. No, he's not. The halberd is actually more, but he's slightly better damage than the spear, but you're losing that 2-inch range in comparison, so that's the trade you're making there. I don't quite think he's worth it. I think the spear is slightly better because 0.1 damage, that's very, very insignificant, and yeah, you're losing that 2-inch range. So I think the spear is slightly better, but the Flagellant definitely an option if you want to. Then we've got the Guild Greatsword. He was also in the White Dwarf, 95 points, so not that expensive for elite tier. This is elite infantry basically, not chaff infantry, so not that expensive. Movement 4, toughness 4, 10 wounds. Range of 1, 3 attacks, strength 3, 2, 4 damage. Puts him at 3.1 damage on average, which is only very slightly better than the halberd. So I think that's the biggest issue with this guy. Due to only having 3 attacks, he's not actually that great. If you're fighting toughness 3 enemies, then your 2 base damage is going to come into play a lot. But if you're fighting toughness 4 enemies, this guy won't deal a ton of damage compared to your chaff models. Then we have the crossbowman and the handgunner, both of them at 80 points. Again, I like the fact that they are 80 points. That's relatively cheap. Both of them have toughness, move 4, toughness 3, 10 wounds. Now the crossbow has slightly higher range. It's 16 compared to the 12 of the handgunner. And then you have 2 attacks each. Strength 3, 1, 3 on the crossbow. Strength 4, 1, 3 on the handgunner. So you're trading 1 strength for 4 inches of reach there. That's really a personal choice, whichever one you like better. Yeah, I think it's both options are fine. I slightly prefer the handgunner personally, but really whatever you want to. Again, I think both of them. Oops. Oh no. Okay. I think both of them are kind of okay for. Obviously, they are not going to be great damage per point value compared to the spear and so on, but for ranged units, they are pretty points efficient. Sorry, guys. Gonna close my window here. Good. Then we've got a Outrider. He's the Pistoly and the Outrider, both of them are skirmish cavalry. 140 and 165 points respectively. 140 points is relatively cheap for cavalry. 165 is less cheap, of course. We have 10-inch move, toughness 3, 20 wounds, both of them. The Pistolier only has 8-inch range, where the Outrider has 12. What's nice about both of them, they have 3 attacks, which is actually pretty good for ranged guys. The Pistolier has a strength of 3 and 1-3 damage. The Outrider has a strength of 4 and 1-3 damage. So you're paying 25 points for 4-inch range and 1 strength. Again, I don't know if I think the Outrider is quite worth it. I think the Pistolier is probably good enough. Yeah, with 3 attacks, at least he's gonna deal some damage, and you get obviously that very high movement. So if you want a cheap 10-inch move guy in there, I think the Pistolier is a decent choice. And then we've got a expensive choice for high movement, which is your Dwarf Knight, 485 points, 8-inch move, toughness 5, 22 wounds, so pretty survivable, this guy. A range of 2 with a lance or a halberd, whatever. 3 attacks, strength 3, 2-5 damage. That comes out to 3.6 damage on average, which is not amazing. I'm kind of sad that they put him at 4 strength 3. 3 attacks is what you have to expect. It's not great, but it's kind of what you have to expect for a cavalry unit. But strength 3 is kind of sad. Yeah, I struggle to see that he's gonna be worth his points. Then we've got the dwarf section. All the dwarves are movement 3, so as you can see, there's very strict things they stuck to. So all humans are move 4, and basically all are toughness 3, other than the guys with the shield. So whoever has a shield or very thick armor like the Greatsword is toughness 4. Everyone else is toughness 3. For the dwarves, everyone is movement 3. But everyone is toughness 4 or toughness 5 if they have a shield. So that's how they went about this. You drop 1 movement, you gain 1 toughness over the humans, basically. The Warden King, 195 points. So actually the most not the most expensive we talked about, because we did have the cavalry options there, but quite expensive for a leader, especially a leader with 3-inch movement. He is toughness 5 and 25 wounds, so very survivable. A range of 1, 4 attacks, strength 4, 2, 4 damage. So again, with that 5.4 damage on average, we've seen that a lot for our most fighty options so far. Like, we don't see many more. I think there's exactly 1 model in the entire 68 of them that does more damage than this. So that's on the high end of our damage scale here. Then we've got the Rune Lord. He's 170 points, not that expensive. Movement 3, toughness 4, 25 wounds. He's basically the same as the Warden King. You drop 1 point of toughness and you drop 1 attack, which is a big down. So he's only dealing 4 damage on average. Normally I would say the Rune Lord doesn't really seem worth his points. However, there's one interesting thing about him I need to mention. He is the only guy with his rune, basically rune mark. He has that melting brain, I'm gonna call it, because I actually looked it up in the book and it's not in the book, so I'm calling it brain melt. That's what his rune mark is, and yeah, if you want that rune mark, it's present in every warband. If you want that rune mark, you will need the Rune Lord. We then have the Cocksmith, 185 points, so very expensive there. Again, 3-inch move, toughness 4, 25 wounds. 12-inch range, so he's a ranged leader. Only 2 attacks, strength 4, 2, 4 damage. The damage output is not bad, but I really wish he had 3 attacks. I think he needed 3 attacks to be kind of worth his points. As it stands, 2.7 damage is really not good enough for 185 points. So yeah, don't like the Cocksmith. I don't think he's good. If you want a ranged guy, the Marksman with repeater handgun is probably a better choice. He's dealing basically the same damage and costs 40 points less. Then we've got the Keeper of the Gate. He's the Hammerer leader option, 175 points. So you can see all these leaders are quite expensive, which is because they are paying for higher toughness and higher wounds count. Also movement 3, toughness 4, 22 wounds. Range of 1, 4 attack, strength 4, 2, 5 damage. So I was not quite right. There's a few. It's 2 models that have more than 5.4 damage, and the Hammerer is 1. So if you want a tanky and very punchy leader, the Keeper of the Gate is not a bad choice. Do keep in mind though that with movement 3 you're generally gonna struggle to get him to where he wants to be. Movement 3 is very bad. Then we've got the Ironbeard with gun and bomb, so he's your Ironbreaker leader, 175 points for him as well. 3-inch move, toughness 4, 22 wounds. This is the profile for his bomb because it's way superior to his gun. His gun is horrible. Range of 5, 2 attack, strength 4, 2, 4 damage. So again with that 2.7, it's just too little damage to be worth his points. I think he's pretty bad. Then we got the Iron Warden with Torpedo. He's obviously the Iron Drake leader, 190 points, so even more expensive there. 3-inch move, toughness 4, 22 wounds, 16-inch range, at least that's very good. 2 attacks, strength 5, 2, 5 damage, so his damage output at 3.7 is not awful. Definitely not awful, and it's at a great range, so that's something. However, 190 points is very expensive. I do think people will play like dwarf lists, and I can kind of see bringing him. However, for the same points, you're getting the Warden King, who's super survivable and does decent damage, or you're getting the Keeper of the Gate, who's a lot cheaper and actually probably so far the best option here. And then we've got the Old Guard. He's the Longbeard option, 175 points for him too. 3-inch move, toughness 5, 22 wounds. Of course he has a shield, so that's why he's toughness 5. 4 attacks, strength 3, 2, 4 damage for 4.1 on average. Yeah, strength 3 is a bit of a downside to him, otherwise he's really not bad. Then we've got your unit options. The Iron Drake is 95 points, so 15 points more expensive than the Crossbowman or the Handgunner, let's keep that in mind. Movement 3, toughness 4, 12 wounds, so obviously tougher and more wounds than your Handgunners. A range of 12, so just like the Handgunner. 2 attacks, just like the Handgunner. Strength 3, less than the Handgunner. 1, 4 damage, so higher crit damage but less strength. Comes out to 1.7 damage on average, which is lower than that of the... oh no, which is the same as that of the Handgunner. So my issue with this is that you're paying 15 extra points for toughness and wounds that you don't need. Ranged guys don't need more wounds and more toughness. You're paying that and you're not getting any extra damage. So I think if you want to go ranged, just go ranged with your free guild and not with your Iron Drakes. Then we've got the Ironbreaker. He's 95 points. Toughness 3, movement 3, toughness 5, of course, because they have shields and stuff. 12 wounds. 1-inch range, 3 attacks, strength 3, 1, 3 damage. Very, very pitiful damage output for a elite costed model. I think the Ironbreaker is definitely not worth his points. If you want something survivable, you can go cheaper, get the Guard with Sword and Shield, but you're probably still better off with getting the Guard with Spear. Just don't like the Ironbreaker at all. He's the same cost as the Greatsword actually, and all he gets is 1 extra toughness, loses the movement, and his damage output is not even comparable, so yeah, very bad. Then we've got the Hammerer, 110 points, and he's movement 3, toughness 4, 12 wounds, as you'd expect. A range of 1, 3 attacks, strength 4, 2, 5 damage, so The hammer actually does deal very decent damage for 4.5. That is pretty sexy. He does cost 110 points, so he's not cheap. He's definitely an elite tier model, but his damage output is not bad. Again, you're gonna struggle to really get that traction on the table. With movement forward, it's just hard to get the most out of your damage output, but we're going to talk about that later on. Then we've got a Longbeard with shield and with Great Axe. The shield costs, as we are used to in Warcry, more than the Great Axe option, and as you can all imagine, the Great Axe is obviously the way better option because it does more damage, whereas the shield has more toughness, which you don't need. So if you're going to bring a Longbeard, bring the Longbeard with Great Axe. However, he only costs 5 points less than the Hammerer and does less damage. Otherwise, they are the same, so I think the Hammerer is just the better option and both of your Longbeards are pretty bad. Now we have two interesting dwarf models, which are the Gyrocopter and the Gyrobomber. So those are your high movement dwarf options. The Gyrocopter costs 220 points, which is a hell of a lot of points. He has 12-inch move, toughness 4, 22 wounds. What I will say for both the Gyrocopter and the Gyrobomber is that they have a melee and a ranged attack, and you can use both. They are both not horrible. For the Gyrocopter, I think the ranged one is a bit more attractive. It's 12-inch range, 2 attacks only, but strength 4, 1, 3 damage, so yeah, 1.7 damage. It's really not good, but at least it's 12-inch range, and well, I wanted to show that you can use it. The Gyrobomber, 245 points, even more expensive than that. 10-inch move, but of course both of them can fly, which is a big advantage. High movement plus flying is great, so especially for grabbing treasures, running away and so on, it's gonna be very, very useful. Toughness 4, 25 wounds, so very survivable, this guy. I put down his melee attack because it's actually pretty strong. Range of 1-3 attacks at strength 5 for 2-4 damage. That puts him at 5 damage on average, which is actually pretty decent. It's actually pretty decent. I probably still wouldn't play him because I think like 245 points is too much. You're just sacrificing a lot of other things for that. But it's an option. If you want to go dwarves and need a mobility, the Gyrobomber is not a bad option. Now we've got our high elf contingent with the assassin, who's actually probably a dark elf. Anyways, he's on the page for the high elves. I have no idea what's going on. 175 points, 6-inch move, which is nice. As you can see, all the other elves are movement 5, so he's a bit higher movement there. Toughness 3, 22 wounds. A range of 1, 5 attacks, strength 4, 2-4 damage, so that is very good damage, 6.7 damage on average. He's a very, very nice model, 175 points. I think he's one of your better leader options for sure. High movement, high damage, not that expensive. I think the assassin is very good. Then we got the Shadow Walker. He's your ranged leader option, 150 points at least. He's not that expensive. I like that. Movement 5, toughness 3, 16 wounds. A range of 16, which is a very good range. 3 attacks, strength 3, 1-3 damage. This is normal bowman territory, although most ranged units only have 2 attacks, so he's slightly better. He's the typical leader option really. 2 points of damage on average, that's not great. But he's only 150 points. Again, if you want that ranged output, he could be an option. Comparing him to the Marksman with repeater gun, yeah, the Marksman with repeater gun is still going to be better. He costs 5 points less and it does more damage. So all you're getting here is 1-inch movement that you don't really need. Again, I think, yeah, Guild is better than Elves. Then we got the Keep of the Flame. He's your leader for the Phoenix Guard. 180 points, not cheap. Movement 5, toughness 4, 20 wounds. 2-inch range, 4 attacks, strength 4, 2-4 damage, so again with a 5.4 damage on average. However, he does have 2-inch range, which is something to keep in mind, that it's nice. And he's got movement 5, which is also very good. So I think the Keep of the Flame is honestly a pretty good model. Then we've got the Anointed, 10 points more than the Keep of the Flame, otherwise very similar. He gets 2 wounds on top, and he gets 1 crit damage more for 6 points of damage on average, which makes him again one of the most highest damage output guys in the warband, and I think probably your Anointed is worth 10 points over the Keep of the Flame. So I like the Anointed. Then we got a High Sister. He's the leader of the Sisters of the Watch, 170 points. Again, for a ranged unit, I'm already worried with when I see that points cost. Movement 5, toughness 3, 16 wounds, as you'd expect from an elf. 16-inch range, 3 attack, strength 4, so that's where she's better than the Shadow Walker. You can see she gets strength 4 instead of strength 3, and 1-3 damage for 2.5 damage on average. That is the same damage that your guild guy with repeater handgun has. All you lose is so you get 1 extra movement, and she costs 25 points extra. No idea how they come up with that pointing. That seems to be such bad value. I don't know. Don't get the High Sister, get the free guild guy with repeater gun. Then we got the Sister of the Watch, so the non-leader option, 105 points, at least a lot cheaper than the leader. Movement 5, toughness 3, 8 wounds, so quite squishy, but it's a ranged guy, so whatever. 16-inch range, which is nice. 2 attacks, strength 4, 1-3 damage for 1.7 on average. She basically combines the two things that the crossbow and the handgun have, so she has strength 4 from the handgun and 16-inch range for the crossbow. You are paying 25 points more than for either of those options though. If you really want that 16-inch range, you could probably say, hey, I don't need that strength 4 necessarily, give me that crossbow, and you're paying 25 points less, or vice versa, getting the handgun and just dropping 4 inches in range. I think she's probably not really worth it. 105 points is a lot of points for very low damage output. Then we got the Shadow Warrior. He's only 190, sorry, not 100, just 90 points. So a lot cheaper again. Movement 5, toughness 3, 8 wounds. Quite squishy, but that's Elves. A range of 16 as well. 2 attacks, strength 3, 1-3. So he's just like your crossbow. Exactly like your guild crossbow, gets 1 inch of extra movement, loses 2 wounds, and costs 10 points more. Why? I don't know. Again, probably don't go for him, go for the crossbow. And then we got the Phoenix Guard as our last high elf, 115 points. So again, definitely high tier infantry. Movement 5, toughness 4, 10 wounds. That's a good profile. 2-inch range, 3 attacks, strength 4, 2-4 damage. That's 4 damage on average, which is pretty good for infantry. I'm not gonna lie, I think the Phoenix Guard is probably your best high elf here, other than the Anointed, who's a great leader, and the Assassin, who's an even better leader. So yeah, the Phoenix Guard is really not bad. You could bring him. Then we've got the Wildwood Warden, so this is our Wood Elves now. He's your... What's the Wildwood Warden actually? He's your Wildwood Ranger, leader of course. 140 points, really cheap, really cheap. Movement 4, toughness 3, 16 wounds. Quite squishy for a leader. 1 inch range, 4 attacks, strength 4, 2-4 damage. So you're getting that 5.4 damage for a very, very cheap price. If you compare them to your other 140 points options, which are... Oh, sorry, the human options are 130 points on your Prophet, for example. You're getting 1 extra move, losing 4 wounds, but getting that 1 extra strength for a higher damage output. So for 10 extra points, you're getting extra move and extra damage output. I think that's probably worth it. the Wildwood Warden seems like a pretty good deal. Then we got the Nomad Prince. He costs 185 points, movement 5, toughness 4, so and 22 wounds, so a lot tougher and more survivable than the Wildwood Warden. 2 inches of range, 4 attack, strength 4, 2, 4. So again with the 5.4 damage, but 2-inch range also. That's really nice. What's the difference between him and the Anointed actually? Okay, the Anointed has the higher crit damage. But yeah, the Keeper of the Flame is the exact same as the Nomad Prince. The Nomad Prince costs 5 points more, and that's because he has a ranged attack. He has his little eagle he holds on his hand, can attack. It's got 20-inch range, so that's great range. But it's a very, very shitty attack. You're gonna deal 1 damage probably if you're lucky. But if you do need to snipe a model that's like far away and only has 1 wound left, it's an option. So if you have 5 points to spare, you might as well upgrade your Keeper of the Flame to your Nomad Prince. Then we got the Eternal Warden. He's your Eternal Guard leader. 145 points, again, pretty cheap for a leader. Move 5, toughness 4, 16 wounds. So tougher than the Wildwood Warden because of its shield, of course. 1-inch range, 4 attack, strength 3, 2, 4 damage. So you're trading the toughness for the strength. You know how I feel about that. I would normally prefer the Wildwood Warden with the higher strength over the higher toughness. And again, we can see Games Workshop weirdly prices toughness too high, so the toughness 4 is just worth 5 points more than the strength 4, I guess, for whatever reason. So yeah, Wildwood Warden is better. Then we got the Wild Hunter and the Handmaiden of the Thorn. Those are your deer cavalry options. 200 points each, 10-inch move, 3 toughness 3. The Wild Hunter is 28 wounds, the Handmaiden 26. Your Wild Hunter is obviously the melee option, your Handmaiden is the ranged one. The Wild Hunter gets 1-inch range, 4 attack, strength 4, 2, 4 damage, so again with a 5.4. 200 points is not that expensive for cavalry, to be honest, and 10-inch move is good, so I kind of like him. Then you get the Handmaiden. She has a range of 8, 3 attack, strength 3, 2, 4 damage, 3.1 on average. I think for a ranged guy, again, that's not a horrible profile. Sadly, the strength is a bit low, or the attacks, whichever you want, but she's not that bad. And something I need to point out, she's one of the 3 Sorceress options you have. So again, I said that before, if you want access to those sorcerer abilities, the Handmaiden is one option. And yeah, keeping that in mind, I don't think she's that bad, because if you compare her to your Battle Mage, she costs 25 points more, but you get high movement, you get more wounds, you get more damage output. Yeah, I think that's really all I had to say. I'm sure you're all on board with the Handmaiden for mage support. Then we've got the Eternal Guard, 90 points, relatively cheap. Movement 5, toughness 4, 8 wounds, a range of 2, of course, because they have spears. 3 attacks, strength 3, 1, 4 damage for 2.6 damage on average. It's not bad. It's really not that bad. 2.6 damage is pretty decent. I think it's the same that this is the same profile as the Halberd has, and you're getting extra movement. Yeah, I think the Eternal Guard really not that bad. He does cost 15 points more though for 1 point of movement. You have to make sure you're willing to pay that. I don't know if I would be. Then we have the Wild Rider, 145 points, 10-inch move, toughness 3, 18 wounds, basically the same for the Sister of Thorn, by the way, as well, who costs 20 points less. His range of 2, 3 attacks, strength 4, 2, 4 damage, which is 4 damage on average. That's actually pretty good damage. and I think he's a rarity for cavalry because he's fast and he does good damage, which is something you see very, very rarely on cavalry. And I think the Wild Rider is one of your best cavalry options if you want it. Then we got the Sister of the Thorn. Again, 125 points, so quite cheap for cavalry. Movement 10, toughness 3, 18 wounds. Range of 8, 2 attacks, strength 3, 1/4 damage only though. So she is not that good. She's not point efficient at all. I think the Sister of the Thorn is probably not worth your while. Then we got the Wildwood Ranger, 85 points. Movement 5, toughness 3, 8 wounds. I talked about him, he was in the Wild Dwarf as well. A range of 1, 3 attacks, strength 4, 2/4 damage. He's just a very good, very, very point efficient model. He's an elite model who's costed chaff. Awesome stuff. Well, he's got the survivability of chaff, but he's got the damage output of elite. So I really like the Wildwood Ranger. I think he's well worth bringing. Then we got the Dark Elves, last but not least. We're getting there, guys. I know it's already long. Stay with me. Captain of the Blackguard, 170 points. Movement 5, toughness 4, 20 wounds. 2 in range, 4 attacks, strength 3, 2/4 damage. Makes for 4.1 damage on average. Not amazing for 170 points. You've got better options. Then you've got the Sorceress. Not going to talk about her. She's the exact same as the Mage for your guard. Again, it's one of the magic options. Then you got the Lordling. He's only 135 points, super cheap. I think he's your he's your Bleak Sword leader, I think. Movement 5, toughness 4 and 16 wounds. Range of 1, 3 attacks, strength 3, 2/4 damage. His damage output is pretty pitiful, that's why he's that cheap. I don't know if I like him much. I think the profit for the humans is a bit better. Anyways. Then we got the Drake Master, 180 points. Movement 5, toughness 4, 20 wounds. So way more survivable there. Range of 1, 4 attacks, strength 4, 2/4. So that's again your 5.4 damage. Yeah, pretty good leader for 180 points. Then you got your Guard Master, 130 points, really cheap again. You have that movement 5. You only have toughness 3, of course, 16 wounds. 12 inch range, because he's your Dark Shard leader. 3 attacks, strength 3, 1/3 damage. So very basic attack profile there. But he's very cheap as well. So he's definitely an option for a ranged unit. He costs 15 points less than the repeater handgun, and all he loses is 1 point in strength. So he could possibly be an option as well for your ranged leader. Then we got Dred Knight's Dark Rider Herald. The Dred Knight is your heavier cavalry. He's 235 points, movement 8, toughness 5, 30 wounds. And 4 attacks, strength 3, 2/4 damage. So yeah, with the strength 3, it's not that great in terms of damage output. I think I prefer the Demigryph leader. He's 15 points more, but also better. Then we got the Dark Rider Herald. He's of course again like skirmish cav kinda, although he's still melee, but lighter cavalry, 230 points. 10 inch move, toughness 4, 26 wounds, so a lot less survivable for cavalry. 3 attacks instead of 4 attacks on the Dred Knight, that's the only difference. So very low damage output there. I don't think he's worth his points at all. Then we got the Black Ark Fleet Master. Him, on the other hand, I really like. 150 points, movement 5, toughness 3, 22 wounds. Very nice profile there. You're saving points on the toughness, but you're getting 5 inch movement and good wound count. 4 attack strength 4, 2/4 damage. Well, we've seen that. 5.4 damage on average. For 150 points, I think that's a great deal. Actually, compared to, yeah, like your free guild get general costs 30 points more than that for the same damage output. All you're getting for the free guild general is extra toughness. So bad. So really, in comparison, there's no reason not to bring the Black Ark Fleet Master. Really like him. Then you got the Black Ark River. He's your, I think, what's it? Probably your Corsair. A leader option, 125 points are really, really cheap. I think that's the cheapest leader yet. Movement 5, toughness 3, 16 wounds, so a lot more squishy. 1 inch range, 4 attacks, strength 3, 2, 4 damage. So you're losing 6 wounds and you're losing 1 strength for 25 points. I think if you have the points to spare, I would prefer the Black Ark Fleet Master. However, the Reaver is not bad. You could also bring him. And then we've got, for troop choices, we've got the Blackguard Corsair, ones with crossbow and ones with swords. I think interestingly the swords is very cheap, 65 points. Again, one of those very, very cheap chaff models. Both of them have 5-inch move, toughness 3 and 8 wounds, as is usual for for elf chaff in general. Your swords guy has a range of 1, 4 attacks, strength 3, 1, 3 damage. That's the exact same profile that the Flagellants have. So good damage output. He's very squishy though. You don't have 2-inch range to protect you, and you have very little wounds and toughness, so he's gonna die. I can show you that your Blackguard Corsairs are gonna die, but at least they're going to throw out some damage before they do. I still kind of prefer the Free Guild Guard with Spears though, I must admit. But yeah, these guys not bad. Then we got the Blackguard Corsair with crossbows. 80 points, 5-inch move, toughness 3 and 8 wounds as well. A range of 8, which is not that much. 2 attacks, strength 3, 1, 2 damage. That is pitiful, pitiful damage output. I think the Blackguard Corsair is not worth it at all. Sorry, the crossbow one, yeah. Then we got the Dark Rider for 175 points. Again, pretty damn expensive for cavalry. Obviously 10-inch move, toughness 4, 18 wounds. Comparing him to the Wild Rider, who's all the Wild Rider has less is 1 toughness. And then we have 2-inch range, 3 attack, strength 3, 1, 4 damage for 2.6 damage on average. Now, your Wild Rider does a ton of more damage, a lot of extra damage, and your Blackguard, your Dark Rider costs 30 points more. It's again, this is the Games Workshop insanity of how they value toughness. I can't get it into my head. There's no reason, none whatsoever, why this guy should be 30 points more. He's so much worse and costs so much more. No idea. Anyways, we've got the Blackguard, 105 points, not too expensive for elite tier infantry. Movement 5, toughness 4, 10 wounds, so relatively survivable as well. A range of 2, 3 attacks, strength 3, 2, 4 damage for 3.1 on average. Pretty good guy in general, the Blackguard. Then we got our Dread Spear and Bleak Sword. Both of them are movement 5, toughness 4 and 8 wounds. The reason they are more expensive than your guard guys is because they have higher movement and they have the toughness 4. They do drop 2 wounds though. And then for the spear you have a range of 2, only 2 attacks though, strength 3, 1, 4 damage. I think that's yeah, the Free Guild Guard with spear has 3 attacks, so you're getting extra movement and toughness, losing extra attacks. I don't know why you need to pay 15 points more for that. Again, with how toughness is valued. Bleak Sword costs the same as your Free Guild Guard with sword and shield, and I think he's playing better, so I think I would use the Bleak Sword over the Freeguild Guard with shield. Then we got the Executioner, 115 points. Movement 5, toughness 4, 10 wounds, as we've seen on the Blackguard as well, for example. 1 inch range, 4 attack, strength 3, 2, 4 damage. That is a very good damage output. Executioner seems well worth his points. Then we got the Dark Shard, ranged option 75 points, quite cheap, I like that. Movement 5, toughness 3, 8 wounds. Yeah, normal elf stuff there. 12 inch range, so like the handgunner. 2 attacks, strength 3, 1, 3 damage. So he's also a combination of handgunner and crossbowman, but he combines the worst things about them. So he has the lower range of the handgun and the lower strength of the crossbow. You are dropping 5 points, but I don't think that's really worth it. I think, again, humans for the win in terms of ranged guys. And for the last one, we've got the Dred Knight, 180 points. Movement 8, toughness 5, and 20 wounds. For a damage output of 3.1 on average. He's overpriced. Pretty bad model. Okay. Now, I know this has been going on very long already, so we're just very quickly gonna scoot over the interesting ones in terms of points value and then leave it at that and come back for the second video for all the look at the abilities and so on. So what have we got here? I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. Don't worry about the color codes here on the left too much for now. I'm gonna talk about that in the next one. So what's interesting here? Well, we got 3 guys that stand out for your Freeguild Guard, and those are your Spear, Halberd, and Flagellant. Those are the best options there, of course, because they are cheap. Also, the what I would like to point out is that the crossbow and handgunner are not bad, because they are ranged, so you do expect the lower damage per point value there, but they are not that bad. Yeah, Pistolier, horrible point value, as is, yeah, that's really all I want to point out for the humans. Then we got the your Dwarfs and the Cocksmith. Really bad point value, as I said, would not bring him ever. The Hammer is definitely one of your better choices, as is the Longbeard with Great Axe, but I talked about that. I think the Hammer is just a little better than the Longbeard in general, so if you have those 5 points to spare, get the Hammer. Yeah, then we have your Elves. For them, definitely the Assassin is a great leader option. He's your best damage output in the entire warband. Out of all your models, the Assassin is the highest damage output and is very good value as well. We've got the well, maybe the negative examples are your High Sister and the Shadow Walker, who you definitely should not bring. Some of the other ones, the high, also like the Phoenix Guard guys, are totally decent, totally viable, as is your Phoenix Guard themselves as a unit option. For the Wood Elves, we've got the Wildwood Warden, who's great value. I said he was very cheap and very good value. And then you got a lot of pretty decent lead options there, with the Nomad Prince, the Eternal Warden, the Wild Hunter. All of them are decent. I think the Wild Hunter stands out because he's a cavalry option that actually is quite cheap and does a good amount of damage. Then you've got the Handmaiden of the Thorn, again with her Mage ability, which is nice and not too bad for a ranged option in terms of damage output, especially if you add the riding capabilities to it. Then we got the Wildrider, who's your best point value for any cavalry in the warband. And we got the Wildwood Ranger, who's the only one at 0.5 for your 0.05 for your damage per point value, and therefore the highest, the most points efficient elite infantry here. And then we got the Dark Elves. Really things that stand out is how bad the Dark Riders are, so totally don't bring those guys. The Blackguard Ark Fleet Master, as I said, for 150 points is a steal. He's a very good lead option. And then we've got your Blackguard Corsairs, who are good, but maybe not quite as good as your Spears Guard. And then a Executioner, who's also good point value, and a bit more survivable than, say, the Wildwood Ranger. So that's why you might want to bring him. In fact, I think I should mark him that way anyways. Good. Yeah, and that's really all I wanted to talk about today. Thank you very much for listening to this very long video, and I hope to see you all in the next one, where we will not only talk about the abilities for all the warbands, but we're going to talk, so for all your cities you have different abilities, we're going to talk about those, and we're going to talk about lists that are possible. First about ones that I think are gonna be actually very competitive, and then I'm gonna have a quick glance at what kinds of list I think each city kind of likes to bring. So anyways guys, thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one.